Hey folks, you're watching Onward with Onrie Live. I'm your host, Henri Kompan. And if you're just tuning in, I have some news to share with you. As of last weekend at Phoenix Comic-Con, Eastern Shin has officially broken 80,000 sales without a publisher, without a distributor. Our fifth issue of the series, Eastern Shin Fallen Avenger 1, has just surpassed selling 5,000 units. And we did all this under tremendous circumstances, and I'd like to talk to you about that today. So over the weekend, over the course of Phoenix Comic-Con, there were a lot of things that changed this year due to some events that occurred the year prior. And for those of you who don't know, there was actually an active shooter situation that occurred at Phoenix Comic-Con 2017, and luckily law enforcement was quick enough to apprehend the guy who was planning to kill the Green Ranger, and they managed to catch him, before he was even able to fire off a round from one of his many guns that he had on him. And that was a pretty tough blow to an otherwise very successful show. I mean, I've been doing Phoenix Comic-Con now since 2013. And I've seen that show grow to a point where it was hitting the numbers that San Diego and New York have at their shows. I mean, there was one year where they had like 90,000 people on the floor, and when that happens, I mean, you know it. You can feel the presence of so many people over there because you just literally can't walk and you can barely breathe. It was significantly different this year because there had been such high security measures taken, which I appreciate and very happy we're in place because my objective at the end of the day is to return home to my family, and there was a cost to having such high security. And Sunday morning I come onto the show floor, and I had a relatively good weekend, and I was within goal to sell out everything I had brought with me, but it was not going to be an easy day. I had like 350 books to sell. And I'd only sold out of one item. Usually I sell out of graphic novels by Saturday so that I can just get focused on singing single issue sets on Sundays. And that usually makes it easier. But when you have graphic novels to sell, you can only sell like a few of those at a time. It's not like, I sell 10 graphic novels with one transaction. It never really works like that. So, and selling the more expensive item is the harder thing to do anyway. So, going into the show, I was pretty... I was pretty set on the fact that this was going to be a long day, and I'd be working the floor from start to close. And usually, if I'm lucky and I do really well at a convention, I usually sell out around like 3 o'clock on Sunday. This year, I knew I was going to be later, but the cherry on top of this Sunday was the fact that a few announcements were made in the morning before the showroom floor opened. And the first thing was that the show had to change its name from Phoenix Comic-Con to Phoenix Comic Fest, and would now be changed to Phoenix Fan Fusion, which I don't really understand the purpose of that, but the owner of the show got up in front of everybody and he started explaining why he needed to change the name of the show. And I don't think that's the right name for the show, but that's just my opinion, and I think a lot of my peers feel the same way, and probably some of you fans out there as well. But on top of that, he was talking about how, the show was not doing as well as it had in previous years, and there was I think it was either a 30% drop or a 50% drop in the attendance, and I actually believe it was 50%, just because I've been doing the show for a long time, and I could tell footwork and, how many people are actually filling up a showroom floor. And, it was hard. I mean, a lot of people I knew did not do well at this show, and they were angry, and they had every right to be angry because they expected the show to turn up a certain things. There was a dependency to have people come in. And that's where the psychology of everything kicked in for me. And that's what I want to, impart you with today. Is just some things that you can think about when you're entering a situation like this, where that there's lower traffic, everybody around you is not doing well. What do I do now? How do I get myself out of this, the shitstorm? How do I survive this weekend and not hate myself after it's over? That's what I'm here to talk to you about today, convention psychology. So I have 3 major points that I think will help you turn on to that proper mindset. And the first thing that you need to focus on is the interactions you have with buyers. You know, you could be getting rejected all day, but focus on the interactions you have with your actual buyers. Let that give you energy. That is your life force right there. Every time someone buys something from you, that is a victory. It doesn't matter what they buy from you. It doesn't matter if they bought the cheapest fucking thing on your table or the most goddamn expensive thing, or both, whatever the case is. You treat every customer equally, and you let every customer charge you positively the same exact way, because they are giving you money and they are walking away with a product that they are going to be satisfied with. All right? And when you get non-buyers, you got to treat them as potential buyers. So what that means is if someone doesn't want to buy my stuff, that doesn't mean that they don't want to buy my stuff, period. It just means that right now they're not sure if they can, and in some cases they are sure that they can't because they don't have money. You don't want to turn people away like that. So what I did was I give away bookmarks, and I write my booth number down so that people can come back to me. Does it piss me off? Absolutely. Especially going like 20 or 30 minutes getting rejected. That fucking sucks. I don't care, like, you know, who you are. It's like getting punched in the gut multiple times, because it's not like you're selling knickknacks. You're selling yourself. You put everything you can into your project, and you're just going by for like 30 minutes, you know, talking to people who are just not interested in anything you have to sell. They're not giving you the money. They're not giving you the interaction you need. And it's like starving for food, you know? It's like at one point you kind of feel like you're begging for that sale. And it sucks, but you have to just remember that people will come back. You know, people can't say no forever, and I'll get to that. So that brings me to my second point. You need to be considerate. You know, your work isn't for everyone, but like I just said, people can't say no forever. So don't hate the audience, hate the game. You know, like this is, you can't hate someone for not buying your stuff. It's easy to blame that one single person, but don't focus on that one person. Don't explode on that one person. Instead, take a step back. And what I mean by that is, if you have to stop selling, stop selling. Go sit down for a second. Go get some water. Go for a walk around the floor. Just relax. Talk to your neighbor. You know, like, do whatever it is to get yourself out of that state. Because if you keep on doing that, you're going to blow up. And we all blow up at people. And I'm not innocent of that either. I've blown up at people sometimes for not buying my stuff. And if I'm smart enough, I can catch myself and apologize for doing it. You know, but when you're around so many people in such crowded areas or not crowded areas, the tensions rise and you're feeding off of energy. You almost don't even have control over your own emotions at that point because you're just around so many people. And if you can recognize that about yourself, you'll be a lot more focused when you do these shows, you know, and you won't get such, you know, panic or whatever, you know. It's important to keep yourself relaxed. And, you know, when you feel like it's not working for whatever reason, take a break. And that brings me to my third point. You really can't do better than your best. So if you've come to a show and you worked the fucking show from start to finish and you didn't do well, that is not on you. And that's not on the show. You just can't do better than what you've done. Maybe this isn't your audience. Maybe you're having an off day. There's a number of things that could go wrong. Maybe you're just not in the right state of mind to actually sell stuff to people. And that has happened too. You know, I've gone to some store signings and, you know, I've had situations like that. Usually when I go into a convention, I'm prepared mentally for what I'm about to go into. And I just know that I only have control over myself. And as long as I'm up there working and doing what I do best, I know that I'll sell something because, like I said earlier, people can't say no to you forever. Eventually someone is going to crack and they will buy your stuff. Rest assured, my friends, it will happen for you too. And, you know, if people see that you're working for it, they're going to be more inclined to want to support you, even if they don't buy your work right away. Because people respond to that. If you're an artist who's sitting behind your table, you should be working. Maybe have like a laptop set up so that people can see that you're working as they're walking by your booth. You know, I see so many times people who just get like so bummed out that they don't want to work the show anymore. They don't want to even be there anymore. And I get that too. I've felt like that so many times, especially at Planet Comic Con where I didn't sell out. it fucking sucked. I was not doing well. But even that day when I knew I was not going to sell out at the show, that it was impossible, I went in thinking, I'm going to fucking go swinging. You know, I'm going to go out swinging. I'm just going to, you know, keep doing this. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if I get rejected all day, because I'm going to leave this show and I'm going to know that I did my very best. And I'm going to walk out of there and I'm going to pay myself something. And I did the best that I could. And I got closer to selling out than I would have if I would have just given up and said, fuck this show, I'm going to go home. You know, you have to stick it through. This is a job. It's not like, you know, this isn't just like, if you're going to go to a convention, don't treat it like a hobby. You won't make money then. If you're just going to go there to, like, you know, because you want to do it as a hobby, that's another thing. And if you get in, that's great. Good for you. You know, I've seen plenty of people do that too. This is just a hobby for me. It's something on the side. And that's great. Look, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, like, hobbies can turn into, you know, profitable endeavors too. It just takes some time and, you know, energy and all that stuff. But for me, I'm in this for the long term. You know, like, this is my career. So when I go to a convention, you know, it's all out war. I'm out there to fucking sell everything that I bring with me. I don't want to go back with anything. And my neighbor at this show, he asked me, what is your thought process when you go into a show? Is it your objective to just simply sell out at a convention? Or is it to have positive experiences with your customers? And I told him it was both. You know, if I have to ship back a box of books, that costs me $50 per box. So for me, it's advantageous to sell out, because that way I don't have to ship anything back. And as long as I sell out close enough to the point where the show is closing, well, then I've done everything I possibly can at this show. And I've been fortunate enough to calculate how many books I need to bring with me per show. A lot of publishers don't do that. What they do is they bring as much product as they can, and then you know, they sell through what they can, and it probably is not very expensive for them to, you know, ship back boxes. It probably costs them the same amount of money as it does for me, but they're selling more volume and they're making more money. You know, I'm slinging single issues. And for me, my objective is to get Eastern Shin into as many goddamn hands as possible, as many, you know, people who can buy it as possible. I don't want to sell 50 books at a show. I want to sell 5,000 books at a show. And I'll do whatever it takes to get my book in people's hands, except for giving it away for free. You know, like, that's something that I feel undercuts the value of the work that I paid for and put together. And, you know, people always want to bargain and try and see what they can get. You know, like, that's another thing that happens, is you get people who are like, hey, is your comic free? And they try and, you know, swipe for it. And it's like, you want to do nothing more than just, like, fucking bitch slap and be like, no, it ain't free. But I came up with a nice answer to that. So, you know, one year I was at San Diego Comic-Con. It was a Sunday. And, you know, someone walked by and I'm like, hey, can I tell you about my comic? And he was like, is it free? And I'm like, it is for $10. And, you know, he got a laugh out of it, and I got a laugh out of it. So, I mean, you know, you gotta learn to have fun when you're doing these shows too. Don't take them so seriously to the point where they bog you down and you don't want to do it anymore. You know, just take it one show at a time. Another thing I was thinking about the other day, if you go into a convention thinking, this is it for me, as soon as I finish this show, I will have arrived, because I, you know, will have gotten to this, you know, grand place, and my book will have been picked up by a publisher, optioned for a movie, and there will be, you know, a groupie following around my comic book series, around me. It doesn't work like that, guys. That's the reality, and that's a good thing. You know, it takes more than one show to make or break you. That's something I'm always gonna say and always gonna repeat. So if you've had a bad show, if you were at Phoenix Comic-Con and it wasn't a good year for you, you'll know yourself that this isn't what's going to take you out of the business. You determine when you get out of the business or when you get in. And, you know, there's going to be people challenging you, and then you're going to feel like you need to be competitive with people. You don't. Focus on you. That's it. That's all that fucking matters. Just focus on yourself. Focus on what you're there to accomplish. That's the only thing that matters. And, you know, people are also going to try and give you advice. You know, like, I've sold 80,000 motherfucking comics already, and I still have people trying to give me advice on how to sell my goddamn comic. You know, it's just what kind of, you know, you just shrug it off. You know, like, you know, a lion doesn't need to be taught how to, you know, hunt. So, there you go. And just focus on what you're there to do, you know, and people are going to try and bring you down. You're going to bring yourself down because you're stuck within yourself all the time. You know, just remember, you are the best at being you, and there's no one who can be you better than you. So even if, like, say you have a book that's not doing so well, you know, I couldn't make your book, and you couldn't make my book, because maybe our interests are different. Maybe the challenges we have, you know, like I know some of these guys, they work like full-time jobs, and then they run a publishing company on the side. And they're just as passionate about that as they are about their day jobs. There are people like that. There's comic book writers who are working on 7 different titles and are full-time lawyers and have bands and do all kinds of shit. I mean, you know, everybody is great at being themselves. So just remember, you know, be the best version of yourself you can. I always, you know, try and tell you guys about this too. When you go to conventions, look for what you're going to add to the mix. And be the best version of yourself you possibly can be. All right? I'll see you guys next week with a brand new episode. Until then, onward to victory.